Juliette de Barrackley-Levy, the pioneer of holistic veterinary medicine, and the books she has written have been a vital inspiration for today's herbal revival. In the 1940s, Juliette came to America to study more herbal medicine with Edmund Bordeaux-Zakeley at his Rancho La Puerta in Baja, California.
And I was on my way to study more herbal medicine under Edmund Bordeaux-Zakeley, who I think is probably one of the greatest teachers of herbal medicine. Not only his own instinct for it and his own skill with it, but he studied the teachings of the Essenes.
It's a translation of a manuscript that he had found years earlier. This book was to make him most famous. Not only been published in probably 30 or 40 editions, but it's been published in at least a dozen languages.
I've been talking at various meetings now across America, and everybody knows this book. It's called The Gospel of Peace of Jesus Christ, and it teaches these ethics of the Essenes, not only vegetarianism, but just sound common sense. For instance, in this book, they say, who would sow a field with cooked grain and expect to reap a harvest? No one. But they teach the importance of raw foods, herbal medicine, fasting. Anyway, I went to Zeki. I was his gardener. I made great friendship with the cows, and I learned a lot. And the professor had a huge cat called Ariman. But there's an interesting remembrance of Ariman, because he was bitten by a rattlesnake, and they all thought he'd die. His legs swelled out 3 times the normal size. And they started to think how they'd treat him. He broke away from human hands, ran to the river below where he was bitten, stood in that river for 3 days, chewing grasses, emerged totally cured. But that's showing the instinct of a cat to cure himself. And that's one of the things I've learned. How do animals cure themselves? We know that they fast, go into hiding. So that's why I came to Mexico, to study medicine under Zeki. But Helen's next.
Well, in our total of 40 or 50 years knowing each other, many letters have passed, and I treasure every letter which I get from Juliette and have kept them. But we've only met 4 or 5 times in all those years, and yet we have immediate response, immediate contact.
A talented violinist who studied Eastern philosophy with Krishnamurti, Helen was 24 when she met Scott Nearing in 1930. He was in his mid-40s, a former professor at the University of Pennsylvania.
Scott and I were in Mexico, and we saw this wonderful little gypsy-looking woman crouched down, barefooted, working on a herb garden. We stopped to talk to her, not knowing who it was, she not knowing who we were, and we instantly, all 3, fell in love. But she was obviously an original, and she was obviously happy, and she was obviously a simple living person.
The Nearings met Juliette at Rancho La Puerta in the 1940s.
Edmund Bordeaux-Zakeley was a wonderful human being. He was a great philosopher and a great teacher and a great man. He fed people with his grapes. He fed people with this original diet. And you remember the raw food that we ate? It was cabbage and hardtack and onions and garlic.
And peanut butter.
And peanut butter and mint tea.
Yes.
That's all we got.
Yes.
And you went to a sort of a bookcase, and there was your name and your food for the day, and that was what we got for our $35. Juliette had been inspired to go there. We were inspired to go there, not only by the $35 rate. And we found that Juliette had written some books. We had written some books ourselves, and we traded them then and there. I was scampering through the grape groves, and I hurt my foot. And he immediately took me in hand and gave me herbs. And I remember the base of my foot, my dirty foot, he sucked it out in case there was any poison or so, which I'd gotten in my foot, my sole, as I walked along. And I thought, what a first-class man and healer this is. He inspired everyone wherever he went. And he made great friends with the Mexicans. He had an interesting expression which he took from the Mexicans, which Scott used all his life. Siempre mejor, always better. Instead of saying good morning or good afternoon or good evening, he'd say siempre mejor. And I know no Spanish at all, but I learned those two words, siempre mejor.